smoke. And Italian. I'm Italian.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Uncensored. I am your host, Keith Andrew. On here is Phil Fiumano. And I just want to say thank you for being a guest on my talk show.
Well, I want to thank you for having me and, reaching out. And I would do anything to help anybody, I feel more people did that, would have a better world. And, people should do that, especially people that need help, and work hard.
No, absolutely. I agree with you.
Right.
Now, with that being said, what my talk show is about is showing people that, that even if having a learning disability, I'm able to overcome controversy, reach my goals in life. At the same time, I'm able to turn myself into a perfect example for people out there dealing with any types of learning disabilities and disabilities. They should never give up, and it's to prove to people you can still amount to something no matter what.
Sure.
And now, with that being said, a half hour, 45 minutes of your time. You can say anything you want to, and this is your time. I'm going to ask you some easy questions and some hard-hitted ones, and I'm going to pass it over to you and put you in the driver's seat. Now, with that being said, what can you tell us about yourself?
Okay, well, basically, originally from Brooklyn, New York. I'm Italian-American, and I was born in Brooklyn, but we came out here in Staten Island in 1964. I was about a year old. And, Italian-American household, brother and sister, father worked hard, my mother ended up working later on in life, my father had passed away, though. He got asbestosis, it's from asbestos. He died at 66 in 1998, So it's been a little rough going through that, Growing up, I had a good childhood, I had good friends and everything like that. But then as years go by, people go their own way and they go their own direction. I'm going a little backwards and forwards, I know, but I wanted to get to beforehand, I did go to school for television production, and but it was like very hard business to get into. It's, it's not easy to break into the TV world, in the media world, as you know it, especially, it's all about who you know and getting an open, getting a chance to prove yourself, and it's not easy, business. So what I ended up doing was I ended up going to work in the city as a helper in the building engineer department, in the city in the skyscrapers. And I did that for a couple of years, but I kind of didn't like that kind of work. So I got into plumbing. And I became a plumber for a while. So from building engineering in the city and the union, I didn't really staying in the building in one place. I wanted to get out there and do things and be in different places. Right. So like I said, I became a plumber. And I did that for a while. And then I was like, well, I don't know if I really want to do this because I couldn't get in the union. It was very hard to get in the plumbers union. So what I did was I got into the elevator union. I knew somebody. Got into the elevator, got a chance, worked and got into the elevators, and I was doing elevator construction. I started out in the city on 34th and 8th Street. I was doing a modernization and rebuilding all the elevators. When I first started, I learned so much, And then I went to school for electricity and elevator school for 4 years. I went to school twice a week or once a week for 4 hours. Then it was twice a week for 2 hours. So I put a lot of time in that. Well, the bottom line is I only worked in that business for 6-7 years, and then I got hurt. I got injured on the job. I herniated all these discs in my back and my neck, and I couldn't walk. I was disabled for almost a year and a half, 2 years. I couldn't even walk. I had to relearn to walk again and go through physical therapy and everything. But what happened was I didn't realize how hurt I really was. I figured, oh, well, I'm a strong guy, I'll manage it, it'll go away. and I end up not getting. I tried to go for disability. He kept on turning me down, and blah blah blah. And I was like, well, what am I going to do with myself? So I got into television production with public access TV. So I figured I ain't working, and I was on disability at the time. You know, like not permanent disability, but like temporary disability.
Right.
I said I need something to do with myself. I got to keep myself going. You know, I can't just like not do nothing and be unproductive. Correct?
Right.
So you know, I did that, and I kind of like, wow, you know, I always wanted to do television production. I always wanted to be a cameraman, but I was like, I kind of gave up on that. Well, this is the time for me to kind of get back into it. You know, I got all this time off, and I got a little bit of money to survive on, at least, you know, being on compensation, you know, workers' comp. I was on for a little while. And so I did that, and I volunteered, and I got into public access TV, and I started my own show. TV show. It was called Staten Island Rocks. But I never was on the show. I would just show videos of like music and stuff and that. And I was kind of like too shy, a little shy growing up, you know. I didn't want to be on the screen. I wanted to be behind the scenes, you know what I mean? I wanted to be the producer or the camera guy. I wanted to be a cameraman in like a studio. So what I did was I had this cable show, it was Staten Island Rocks, and then after a certain amount of time, I was like, well, you know, I should put myself on. So I practiced in the mirror. I was like, well, how am I going to get a sentence across? It's like talking like to you on a screen, and you know, you're on the media and everything. It's pretty hard to do. It's not easy. You gotta get skills, right? You know, when you started, you were probably like, oh, you know. So it takes some time to be on like camera and everything, and I got up the nerve and I practiced in the mirror, like talking to the mirror and talking to myself and everything, and I got a little bit good at it. So I actually phased myself into the show, like I would do like an interview, and you know, broke the ice, and I didn't interview anybody famous or anybody really that important, but just like to get on there and say a couple things, maybe even by myself, you know. And that's how I basically got started with that. Now, here's the turning point. What happened in my life was after my father had died in 1998, and what happened was then 9/11 hit, you know, September 11th. And I had, you know, some friends that had ended up passing away on 9/11, you know, a fireman friend, and you know how, like, devastated. I don't know, you're from New York City, so, right? Correct?
Well, upstate New York.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it was just so traumatic. As I'm from Staten Island, and we had so many people that died here, and I knew people personally. I have a neighbor behind me. She died there at the buildings. She worked for the Cantor Fitzgerald. And then there were my fireman friend, my friend Steven Olson. He died where I grew up with him. Great guy, you know, and it was just like so depressing, like, you know, and going through every day, like seeing it on the news, and oh my God, like, you know, and being affected by it personally. Like, my brother was down there, and I had to go rescue him because he was stuck. He was stuck on going on the ferry. He lives in New Jersey now.
Right.
So he couldn't get home to his house. I had to rush down to the ferry and get him, and then I had to try to get him home to Jersey with his family. And my mother was working for school buses, you know, and she works for autism, children with autism. So she was on the school bus with the kids, and she was stuck in the city, and I couldn't hear from them. And I finally heard from my brother. He must have got through on the phone and contacted my house before the phones went out. So I knew where to get him, you know, from the ferry. So I ended up picking him up. Well, with all that chaos that was going on that day, I helped the neighbor down the block. She had a mental, you know, her daughter was had mental retardation, you know, really bad, you know. And she was on like a little bus, but the buses weren't running. So I had to go pick the lady up and go get the kid and bring the kid home. She was like crying and hysterical. It was like so many things were happening that day. And, you know, my own life that time, you know, I was going through a lot of things myself. And I was like, wow, this is like really crazy what's going on, and I felt like it was going to be the end of the world. You know, the buildings were smoking, and it was like the whole media thing. Well, get to the present, like a little bit, you know, after that, present day, I was like, wow, you know, I'm still doing the show, but I was like, what am I going to do with the show? I gotta get out of this. I can't keep thinking about this doom and gloom and all this sad stuff and all this thing. I have to pick myself up, man. And I was like, what can I do? You know, what's going to make me feel better? So I came up with an idea. I was like, wow, you know what? I got an idea. I'm going to change the show from Staten Island Rocks. I'm going to call it New York Rocks. And why I'm going to call it New York Rocks is because I'm going to dedicate it to New York City, you know, or what we went through and all that, you know, chaos and everything, that no matter what goes on in your life, you need to pick yourself up and you need to get out there and overcome the obstacles and overcome all the tragedy, you know? And that's what inspired me. So I just told you, like, what inspired me to get over all the obstacles that happened to me in my life, like, you know, the injuries and the death and of my father and all the death that happened on September 11th and all that, you know, what we had to go through, all the depression and stuff we went through, you know, picking ourselves up. This is what I needed to lift myself up and to help other people too, you know? So basically that's what happened. And I started, in the beginning when I first started my cable show, I really didn't have anybody famous or anybody really, you know. I just picked people that I felt, you know, would like to come on and, you know, had a good story, just basically like what you're doing. You know, you're picking people or whatever. I don't know your exact process, but, you know, in the way you're reaching out to people and you're trying to help people, and it helps you, right? Correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's what I did, and now I've been doing this cable TV show. It was on Staten Island Cable, and then I put it I put it into Brooklyn Cable for a little while. Then I put it on to Manhattan Cable, but it's very hard to, like, oh, you gotta. I was going to using the studio for a while in Staten Island, and it's like you got to get the people to the studio, and you only have like 4 hours to do a 1 hour show. And it's like it's 6 o'clock, and 6 o'clock is rush hour pretty much, and it's hard to get the people at the studio, and basically it's hard to get help. People don't really want to assist you because it's like you have to use other people that are studio trained and that are producers there. So it's like a kind of catch-22, especially other producers don't want to help other producers because basically if they're producing the same thing you're trying to do, they don't want to help you because, you know, it's like a competition kind of deal. So what happened was I kind of I got pushed out of the studio basically. I had people there, it's like politics, a lot of politics and greed and control, and, you know, they don't want to let you use the studio, and they don't get you the proper help that you needed, and it's just a mess. I don't want to get into any of the kind of negativity and everything like that because basically you have to move on in life. You know, sometimes you just stay at a place, you know, long enough, and then it's time to move forward. So you got to forget about that and move on with your life, because if you keep thinking about that, you'll never grow. So I figure, let me get away from it and do my own thing. So basically now I'm doing a lot of work online. I've been, you know, producing videos and putting it on YouTube, and I'll put it onto Facebook and producing like that. And I'm trying to get a studio. I had a couple of different studios I was working with, you know, either in the city or at clubs and or events. You know, I've been covering events around that goes on in New York City. I do a lot of charity things, you know. A lot of the stuff that I don't get paid for, a lot of things that I produce. I produce a lot of things from the heart, you know, and it's kind of hard because you need money to live on, you know. I ain't on disability anymore. Actually, right now I work with a newspaper. It's called the Acquiring Weekly. It's a music entertainment paper. it's like once a week and, part-time. And I just manage by getting by, saving my money. I don't drink, I don't smoke. I'm clean and sober and everything. I was younger. I ran around. I did a lot of crazy things, and I experimented a lot. And I was just like, wow, what a waste of time. All those things were just a big waste. So I kind of got away from all that nonsense that's out there. That just kind of held me down, and I got more productive. And now I've honed my skills. I became pretty good at shooting and editing and interviewing, and I can pretty much do all the jobs myself. That's what's good about trying to get focused and getting rid of all the garbage out of your life. I'll give you a little tilt down. As you can see, it's my room. I'm in my room on my laptop. I have a lot of things in the background. It's like nostalgia and all the things that I've, kind of experienced. I met so many different people. So many different people that made a difference, that were doing good things and helping people. And then I started getting a lot of entertainers on the show. I had there was a friend of mine passed away. But his name was Sid Bernstein. I don't know if you could see it back there. I have a poster on the wall he signed. It's for the Beatles when they played at Shea Stadium. It's not the poster from the Beatles, but he used to sign like little posters and stuff. I never really asked him for anything like, oh, I want an autograph or anything like that. But, sometimes we became, we'd go out together and hang out and be friends. That's what was really cool, because I ended up being friends with him, Sid Bernstein. And if you don't know who Sid Bernstein was, he was the guy who brought the Beatles and the Rolling Stones to America. He was a big manager. He managed a lot of bands, and he had the Rascals, and it was like the 60s. So he was the first big concert promoter at a stadium show. It was at Shea Stadium. It was like the biggest, first biggest rock and roll show ever.
Right.
With the Beatles in '64, and then they played like the next year, like in '65. Well, he brought them over, and so this guy was like such a nice person and such down to earth and friendly, and so different from a lot of people today, and managers and rock stars are all like, oh, they think who they are, and oh, we're too good for everybody and everything. And I don't think that, I just like regular people. People do be people. We're all human. We're all the same. Just because you have talents doesn't mean you're any better than anybody. You know what I mean? And I figure that that's the way. I don't want to become a fake person. Just because of money and fame or whatever it is. It doesn't mean anything. The human aspect of it means more to me in life, and being kind to people and helping people. I did a lot of things. Actually yesterday, last night I got back, I got involved with the first responders, and I did a lot of work for them, like volunteer work, by getting involved with the Zaroga bill. That's for the health care of all the people that were affected on 9/11. And I've been doing that for like at least 6-7 years now, that I got involved with the first responders. And my friend was the first responder. His name is Alan Grandy. He was with the MTA, and the MTA is working in the subways. He was working in the subways, their buses, subways, MTA, transit workers. And basically he was there, and there's so many people that were affected that were down there. Even the people that lived in the area had to breathe that toxic air and be around that, and it's so huge, and these people that were affected, that were down there working or various other living or whatever and everything, were exposed to all these toxins and this and that. So I tried to be there for them because they needed that health care. So I've been volunteering, going down to the museum and videotaping. I went down to Washington a couple of times and lobbying for them to have that bill passed. And finally, after so many years and begging, basically, these are people that they needed that health care because the drugs that they need cost thousands and thousands of dollars, and their unions and their whatever ain't going to pay for all that. And I know that because my father had the same thing. What happened with my dad with the asbestosis, when he got the cancer, his insurance ran out from his job. So he needed these medications to keep him alive and to keep him going. So what happened was I had to quit my job. This is before I got hurt. I had to quit my job and care for my father because my mother was working with the schools. And if I didn't do that, my mother or my father wouldn't have been able to get the cancer treatment from Sloan Kettering, and they give you chemotherapy and this and that and everything like that. Even though he didn't survive, but still was trying to save his life. And I know what they went through. I know what they went through without saying I was a first responder. I know what they went through. Right when the tragedy happened. I know what they're going through. With the medical and everything.
Is there a way you can just sit centered? Because when I use the video program, it's got to cut everything out. So I don't want to cut you off.
Am I good here?
Right.
Okay.
But you did bring up a good point about September 11th.
Okay.
A couple of hard-hitting questions for you. One, do you think it's an inside job? Number one. Do you think it was a conspiracy? And you always hear about, people's stories, but you mentioned your friend was working in the MTA.
Right.
Whatever, no one talks about if people were ever trapped underneath, like in the subway on 9/11. Because you always talk about people running in, running out. What about people in the subway? So I would like to hear their stories.
Well, the people, I think, were in the subway. It just happened to be probably that when the train was going by, it wasn't directly maybe underneath there. So I don't think anybody really got trapped on the train. The electric went out and they had to probably get off the train, but nobody got crushed on the train, I don't think, at that time. Because you never heard about that. But that's a good point, what you said about the transit. They helped a lot of people because they had to get bussed out of that area because the cloud of dust and debris was blinding that people couldn't even see where they were going. So there were people with the MTA that helped people. Actually, there's a guy from Staten Island who lived on Staten Island. There was a bus driver, and when it happened, he helped a lot of people. He get out of that area. He pulled them on the bus. They couldn't even see where they were going. And if they would have just stood there and breathed in all the debris or whatever, they could have collapsed and died from asphyxiation or whatever. Because all the dust got into their throat. They couldn't breathe in their noses, in their mouths. I mean, it's such a big picture of what happened, It's such huge tragedy. We don't like to really bring it up that much, and it's very hard for the first responders to talk about it because it's still very traumatic for them, I mean, a lot of the people are still alive. The hard part is a lot of the guys are suffering, and they have cancer, and they might not live that much longer, So whatever compensation or whatever they should get now, so they can enjoy whatever quality of life they have left. You understand? So
they should have been getting it a long time ago. There's no excuse for it.
Yeah, but you don't know this is going to happen until things happen. Until something happens. And then a lot of it, I mean, that's what we need to do, and we've learned a lot from that, what to do beforehand,
No, absolutely. Now I'm going to pass the show over to you. Was there any questions you wanted to ask me? Was there any subjects you like to talk about?
I would like to ask you, what got you inspired to get into what you're doing? How'd you get started? How'd that come to be? Go ahead.
There's a lot of different variations of the story. One of them is started on a birthday list. I used my dad and my brother for an inspiration. But to make a long story short, It's basically I was using my learning disability as a crutch. That you said I can't go to college, I can't have a normal job, I can't live on my own. You know, people are gonna put me in a group home or whatever. I'm gonna be a burden for people. Right. And I got tired of saying, you know, from my other siblings, you know, ask him, he has connections. But what about talk to her? And I'm like, what about me? Yeah, you're a different case. You're in a different situation. You're gonna work in retail for the rest of your life. We don't know about you. Right. So instead, I got sick of hearing that, and instead of using my learning disability as a crutch, I said, screw it. I'm going to show you and everyone that even though I'm having a learning disability, I can still melt to something no matter what. Right. And so for the past 3 years, I've been using my learning disability as a strength instead of weakness. Right. You know, I interviewed people from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers to Dragon Ball Z to a couple of professional wrestlers. Right. I interview actors, actresses, models, CEOs, professional wrestlers, dancers, cheerleaders, everyone and everyone. People with special needs, people without special needs. And it goes to show you that, you know, I was never given an opportunity growing up. And I was like, well, except for one person, I was given a opportunity. And that's when I was in high school, I joined the audiovisual department. Okay. And besides that one opportunity, I was given nothing. And I was like, you know what? If I have to die, I would like to be remembered as the guy who was kind enough to go the extra mile, make a difference in someone's life. And say, you know, the one thing I remember about Keith Andrew was he was nice enough to come to me and give me an opportunity to have some time on my talk show to tell my story and to do this and to do that. And that's all it's about. I like giving people a chance. And it's you're giving people a chance, you're telling good stories, and you're making a new friend out of it. And you're supporting a good cause. So it's a win-win either way you look at it. And this is what I want to do for the rest of my life until I die.
You got a lot of good values. It's very good. You should be proud of yourself for the accomplishments that you're doing right now and that you're going to do in the future. I know it's hard sometimes, believe me. I had my times saying, you know, people slandered me and they talked bad about me and they came on my show and then they got everything they can get out of me, and then when they felt they couldn't get anything more out of me or they couldn't have ownership, or they wanted to take my show and they wanted to be my boss and tell me what to do. I was like, no, I ain't gonna do that. I'm not gonna let people do that to me, even though they might hurt me and talk about me bad and slander me and do all these things and say I'm like a bad person. I'm not a bad person. I'm a good person because I do so many good things. I've helped so many people for free for my whole life, almost. For 10 years, I've been giving back to so many different people, you know, giving people opportunity, and I haven't charged anybody and everything. But does come a time that you do need funding, you know. So if I buy equipment and I buy like a MacBook like this, it was a $1,200 MacBook. I had to buy it and pay it off a little bit at a time and save my money. And then I had to buy a camera, and you have to put it on my credit. I got to pay it. It takes like 2 years to pay back. I'm still paying back the computer inside, you know. It costs like $3,000 almost for the computer. But I got to pay it a little bit at a time. And it takes a lot of money and a lot of time from your life. You understand? Because now you're in the business. So, nothing is free. So sometimes when you go out and film, you should get paid. Everybody should get paid for their work. You cut somebody's lawn, you should get paid. You know? Right? It's a service. You're doing a service. So if I go out with a camera, even, if it's a charity, I'll do certain things. I do it for free. I'll help a friend or I'm helping people. That's one thing. But if I need to go and survive and make a life out of it, you need to you need to get paid, or you need to have some kind of funding or some kind of support, financially. And I work a job with the newspaper. It doesn't make me a lot of money, but I get out there, in the world. I get in the media. Like I know what's going on at the clubs because I'm delivering the newspaper to the clubs. I'm seeing the people, but I don't get to go out that much because you need money to go out. You can get free tickets sometimes for a show. Maybe you get an invite, but it's like how much work can you do? Go there and just photography and do all this photography and videography and not make nothing out of it. So it's like it's kind of catch-22, especially today. Everybody has got a video camera or a camera phone, and they're at the concert and they're videoing with their little iPhone or whatever, and it's just like it hurts the business. It hurts the video production business and it hurts producers that put a lot of work into it. Uploading the video, editing it, put graphics in. It's a whole big process. You got to compress the video. You have to make it play right. You have to I don't know if you're doing all that work now with the video, uploading and stuff, and editing and graphics and all that. It's a lot of work. It takes very time consuming. It takes a lot of time. But I love it. I love what I do. I just got to stick with it. Okay,
no, absolutely. Now wrapping up, how can your fans and my fans follow you on social media? Are you on LinkedIn?
That's very important to do that because it's like if you're not really on network TV or network radio, let's say, right, Andrew? It's like you have the internet now. The internet could be a plus and the internet could be a minus, but you always got to treat it as a plus. Everything's got to be, you can take a negative and make it a positive, just like the thing with 9/11. You can make it a negative and stay with the negative forever, or you can make it a positive and learn from it and move forward in life. And with the healing and everything, there's a lot of healing involved with that. Being there for others, for helping them. But as far as the internet, you can go on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Vimeo, Pinterest, Tumblr. There's all these different platforms where you can interconnect your social media, which I've been doing. And sometimes it's a little hard because now they want to try to charge you. Oh, you advertise with us and, they want to charge your credit card, But, there's other things that you could use for free. You can still use the Facebook, even though they try to charge you sometimes for advertising, They have to make money too, It's like I said, everything has a cost. But I put a lot of stuff on the social media. So it's I put a website together. nyrockstv.com is my website. And then I use NYRocksTV on Facebook and Twitter. And still have a little cough. I was sick for a while. And basically that's what I do. I just, I kind of interlock them all together and, put the content on there. And I'll grab the link. I'll put it on Facebook. People get to check it out. I try not to put it on too much. I don't want to, not people not to be friends with you because it's like sometimes too much is not good either. If it's just too much, people are like, they get turned off. But I don't want to see that all the time. It's like too much. But you have to put yourself out there, Andrew. It's like, you have to be seen, to be enjoyed. You have to be out there. You have to, show people what you can do and, and get yourself, a platform on your own. It's very good using the internet as a tool to do that.
No, absolutely. Now, wrapping up the interview segment, I just want to say thank you for being a guest on my talk show.
Right. I wanted to bring up all I've interviewed this person and that person by name and everything like that. But that's all hearsay for what, we're talking about. I'm not really here to pump up myself. Oh, yeah, whatever. But to show, like, hey, I went through a lot. I had a lot of my own disabilities and my own, things that went on in my life. And I didn't let that, stop me. So that's my advice to you is just keep doing what you're doing. Because that's what they told me, and even the guy Sid Bernstein says, "You're so great. You're like better than Ed Sullivan. Keep doing what you're doing, kid. Keep doing." He pumped you up, and that's what you need. You need people like that in your life that lift you up and don't push you down. You know what I mean? So I lift you up, my friend Andrew, that you could do it, and you are doing it, and you're making it happen. But by the way, I love Reese's candy, so I love your shirt.
Thank you.
You see mine with New York Rocks, right? So with the bridge, you know what a bridge is? When you bridge things, what do you do with it when you have a bridge?
You bring it together.
You bring it together. There you go, buddy. See? So it's like, it's great. Thank you very much. Best of luck to you. Thank you.